Welcome everyone to the Out of Lives podcast. I'm Ben, and joining me this week, it's not Mr. Moody, it's not Scott, it's Alex.
Hi everybody. Hello.
Hey man, how are you?
I'm living the dream.
Nice. Your return to the Out of Lives podcast since our new start.
It's been a long old time. Very long, yeah.
It has, but we're good. We're delving into a topic that you kind of yourself cover quite a lot of, I suppose, on one of our other shows that we had on, last year before, maybe 18 months or so ago.
It was, 2 years ago. It was a long time.
Was it?
It really was. Oh god, yeah.
Time disappears in Out of Lives.
It's scary when things happen.
Just goes like nice. But this week we're going to be talking a little bit about Spider-Man, but we're also going to be delving into kind of the superhero games we want. You know, what else may be able to build on from Spider-Man and other characters which may be able to be used, and kind of what we want, and have a chat around that this week. But first we'll concentrate on Spider-Man first. Came out about a week and a half ago now, something like that, almost 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks on Friday, yeah.
Yep. Have you finished it?
Last night I finished the story.
Okay.
I've platinumed it, my first ever platinum trophy.
Wow.
All right. I'm just swinging around, hitting benchmarks, and doing neighborhood Spider-Man-y stuff. It's great fun.
Oh, that's interesting. Like the fact that you've platinumed it, you finished the story, you've hit a point maybe, where most people might have dropped off. A lot of people, I would imagine, finished the story and maybe didn't take it any further than that. Maybe a lot of people 100%ed kind of the side missions and stuff around the streets and things, and then dropped it at that, and other people would have taken it up to the platinum. But to keep going and keep playing, it's a good testament to your enjoyment of the game.
Oh, definitely. This is the game I've been looking for. 2 years ago, when it was shown off at E3, we discussed it on Out of Heroes, and we were excited, thinking this is the new Spider-Man 2 game, and it is exactly what I wanted. This game, I know some people are a little bit disappointed by it. This game is exactly what I was after.
Nice. That's good.
Perfect game for me.
Good. Brilliant. I think for me, I'm really enjoying it. I've not got that far through the story. I've just got to the end of Act 2. We might, just so people are aware, I suppose, we might kind of touch on story spoilers a little bit. Not too much, I wouldn't imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got to the end of Act 2. The stakes have risen quite significantly. It's really interesting, kind of, that stuff that we saw in like the build-up, the trailers, things that we saw at E3, have happened maybe this late in the game as well. I would have thought the stuff that had been shown was maybe a little bit earlier than has now kind of come up, perhaps. But at least things in, from trailers haven't given too much away, I guess, surrounding the story and reveals and things like that, which is brilliant. I mean, they've marketed it really well in that regard. But I've got to this point, and I'm excited to go into the third act, to start to encounter the people that you see at the end of Act 2, I suppose, and kind of see how that all plays out, to see where this story goes, to see what else happens between sort of Spider-Man and MJ and that story, and all of these like little subplots and things. I was chatting with Lucy on the last episode of Tanked Up. We kind of concentrated on Spider-Man a bit, giving our initial impressions on things like combat and traversal and stuff. But we didn't talk too much about story because I hadn't got that far at that time. I was maybe halfway through Act 2. But it's kind of, I said to Lucy, I wasn't that invested in the story. I was enjoying it, but I wasn't that invested. Suddenly, my investment in it has jumped up massively with the events at the end of Act 2. So I think it's kind of, I would say it's kind of like a bit of a slow burn maybe on the story, but I've done a fair amount of open world stuff, side missions, collectible kind of things, and actually I feel that maybe I could have got to this point at the end of Act 2 in a much shorter time than I have done. And so maybe my kind of not being as invested in the story in the game is actually more down to the way that I was playing it rather than say the story itself, perhaps. How now you've finished it and you've seen it through? How did you feel about the story?
So the main story to me, it was okay. I didn't go into the game looking for a story.
Okay.
It's not the likes. It's not a Telltale game. God forbid. It's not like. It's not. I don't know. I don't know. For me, I was excited to play the game, not necessarily follow the story. The story was pretty much by the numbers. It works. It works well, and it's a good method of traversing the city. It makes you explore. It makes you do things. But I think, it wasn't a bad story. Don't get me wrong. It didn't. There was a couple of odd parts in it which didn't really make a lot of sense, and there was a couple of portions where you take over a different character, which I thought, why are we doing this? However, as it gives you a function for the gameplay that tells you why you need to do these mad things and why these sudden quick time events, for want of a better term, they're not quite like that, but the QTEs fit into the story really well.
Yeah.
I found myself. It's been a long time since I've been this excited to pick up a controller and play.
Nice.
particularly my PlayStation controller as well. I'm an Xbox boy usually.
Yeah.
This I've never managed to wind down a battery on a DualShock 4 before, completely from start to finish, and then have to panic and find my other one. And this is a new experience for me. In the last couple of years, nothing's quite hit me like this, and everything else has gone to the back burner. Whether the story's part of that, I don't know. I think I've played it very similar to the way that a lot of people have played it as well, which is something comes up on the side missions, and I've done that. I've followed it through to completion. So whether they're fetch quests or go and beat up these goons, do this many crimes in this many areas, I've done those to completion and then gone back to the missions. Okay. It's only when there's nothing else to do, I've gone back to that big yellow diamond and carried on. And that, I think, has extended it for me. I could have mainlined the story. A lot of people, I imagine, have mainlined the story.
Yeah.
Start to finish, and it's over in a few hours. But for me, the key to this game is the gameplay. The traversal is absolutely spectacular. There's parts where it glitches, but so few and far between. If you compare it to something like Assassin's Creed, where they use traversal as an important aspect, and that just every so often you just end up banging your head against a brick wall, quite literally. Whereas with this, it just seems to work, and it's slick, it's smooth. The transitions from one move to another just work, and once you're in the zone of swinging through New York, it's one of the best gameplay feelings I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel similarly about the traversal and about gameplay kind of being king for this game as well. Even, they've kind of made it very fluid, both traversal and I feel combat as well, and getting in that vertical element into combat too. It's not just ground pounding, fighting people kind of on the street. He can web up, kick people, send them sort of flying, pull people towards him with his webs. Everything feels very fluid and very like Spider-Man should. And it's brilliant that they kind of got the feel for that kind of right. I think maybe unlike you, I'm not sure. I've not been kind of doing everything as it kind of pops up. I think I realised quite early that more stuff would maybe appear as the story progressed. Different kind of crimes or different side missions, at least as well, kind of popping up as the story progressed. So I've done a little bit of those open worlds bits, but then jumped back to the story maybe a little quicker than you have, perhaps, from your explanation. But it is all, I think, as we kind of getting to, it's all in service of that movement, really, getting about the city and the traversal and those fun combat encounters. Absolutely.
Hand in hand with that as well, those benchmarks on, I don't know, one of the last tabs on your pause screen, they don't give you any achievements for hitting those. They're just purely for you. But I looked at them and I realised that why are all of these sections on level 3? Why is this on level 1? Maybe I should try expanding the moves I do. And you were talking about combat, about taking it to the ground, and it's not just about ground fighting. In fact, in Act 2 and onwards, if you're just on the ground, chances are you're going to get your ass whooped.
Yeah.
You need to be up in the air, and all of these benchmark points and the things it teaches you through the other missions, they all point you towards a fluid, varied combat style. And that, I think, is a really clever gameplay loop. Of the way it works is that it takes you on this journey, and you're going to have to follow this journey, because if you don't, you ain't going to finish the game. And I played it on the easiest difficulty.
Okay.
Because I've got time now to play it, but if I'm playing it on hard, I'm not going to have time in a few weeks to play it, and life gets in the way, and I want to enjoy the game. And I've done this with a couple of games recently. So I've cranked the difficulty right down to the lowest and just enjoyed the experience. And I found that a lot better, rather than banging my head against a brick wall. Again, Assassin's Creed style, which is one of the ones I turned down the difficulty for. But actually taking the game and enjoying it for what it's meant to be. If I want to play something difficult, I'll play Dark Souls. I don't want to play Dark Souls. I want to play Spider-Man, and I want to enjoy Spider-Man. And it feels free. It feels agile. It seems so strange, particularly when I talk to people who don't play games, talking about how the controls feel. And they feel loose. They feel very, very like Spider-Man should. It's quick. It's nimble. And for me, the gameplay is exciting. They've absolutely smashed it at the park with this one.
Yeah, completely. I completely agree. You were talking about definitely felt that way with the bonus elements to some of the combat encounters and things as well. You know, you get into a fight with, say, some people on the street, and it would come up with a bonus and say like web kick 5 people, or pin 6 people against, or web 6 people against walls and things like that. And actually I came up against one, and it popped up at the end saying disarm people, and I had no idea you could disarm people and pull their guns away from them. I hadn't been looking in the skill tree too much, and I hadn't upgraded really at all, so I hadn't got to that point where I could do that. And I instantly went in and explored the skill tree properly. I think of all the different kind of things you could do. I think maybe when it kind of started and you're kind of directed to the skill tree, maybe with your first point or something to upgrade it, you've only got 3 to choose from. So you have a very brief look at it, you pick one, and then you kind of come away from it. And you level up quite quickly in this game. You do, definitely. So you're getting points quite regularly. I think I said to Lucy on Tactile, I think I had maybe 19-20 points, just say before I really dove into this skill tree and started picking a load of things. And that, knowing that those bonuses were there for things that I hadn't done, opened up that fluid nature of trying more moves, of doing different things. And I quite often now, if I'm swinging through the streets and I see an encounter going on, I'll swing through and either do a massive ground smash, because I can do that now. Of course, when I go in, or slow time down, throw a couple of web bombs to try and pin people against stuff straight away. It allows for such a varied level of combat as well, which I think can tailor towards people's skill level quite easily. You could just go in and fight people and use a couple of your gadgets, and maybe hold square to jump people into the air, and then be able to do a few things to them in there, and have quite a simple grasp on stuff like that. Or you can be pro level and be constantly switching between different gadgets, abilities, and doing different things, and setting people up and snatching weapons away, or throwing people into each other and hitting them with different objects and stuff. And it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't really penalize you if maybe you're having a bad day. I think I'm playing it on the medium setting, so I don't know how difficult hard is to know whether you take that lighter approach, whether it's going to be just death at every turn. But yeah, it feels very kind of open to skill levels of people, but to provide everyone with that kind of fluid nature to movement and to combat. So,
Yeah, I mean, in addition to that, you've got the suit powers as well, which add in this
yes,
whole other dimension, and pretty much each one of those is a complete different style of gameplay. I fiddled around at the start of the game as I started unlocking suits. I fiddled around, just played around with one or two of them. I've found one now, which I'm happy to just use that forever. And again, most of the internet agrees with me in that Web Blossom is the king of all suit powers. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's so much fun to use.
I don't know if I have. What does Web Blossom do?
You land in a circle of people who are mugging somebody else, and you're hitting both your sticks. You jump up in the air, you spin around in a circle, and you web everybody.
Oh, I've not done that one yet.
Oh, it is so much fun. You land back down, you realise that 6 of the 7 people you were fighting are all stuck to walls around you, and you've just got this one guy left. And fine, I'll deal with you then. And it's an instant combo as well. Everyone just goes through, your combo score goes through the roof, and it is so much fun to use. But now, having unlocked the rest of them, I think I'm just going to mess around with a few more, just try some different gameplay styles, and yeah, just see what I've got. Time now. I've got no challenges to hit. I've got no stupid drones to catch or anything like that. It's just now for fun, and it's purely for fun. This game now, it's just mess around, see what I can do.
So without kind of going into any kind of spoiler, once you finish the game, you can go back into the open world element. If you've done everything in each of the boroughs, you've done all of the crimes, you've done all the Taskmaster stuff, everything that kind of pops up, what is there left to do? Like, is there just random other crimes that appear? Do all of those different crimes just pop back up and stuff?
It's New York. There's crime everywhere. I mean, come on.
Fair, yeah.
Okay. Seen as the Avengers apparently are somewhere on the West Coast, I think you told early on in the game.
Right.
Obviously, the Netflix universe doesn't exist in this game.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you go around all the places where the people hang out, but they're not interested at all. So you've got to deal with New York on your own, and there's a lot of stuff going down.
All right, well, that's good to know. But it's again something good to know for those like yourself who are enjoying it so much that kind of you have that maybe that hard end point that kind of maybe doesn't exist so much for this, that you can just keep going and just get more and more enjoyment out of it, and build yourself up to a pro level player for when DLC drops or whatever story stuff is going to be coming out as well. So
I don't think I've ever been to this point where I've completely finished a game before DLC's come out before, particularly in the current state of DLC where it's already prepared well before the game ships. It's ready to go, and they're just waiting for a date to release it. I think there's one coming out this month, isn't there, for Spider-Man, I believe?
Oh, is it end of September maybe? Is that
the Black Cat one? Yeah.
So
that I'm already excited for that. And there is another component to the game as well. So part of the challenge at the start is to go around taking photos of landmarks. There is another challenge which isn't necessarily, you're not guided down that route at all, but there are 50 hidden photographs to take as well.
Oh, right.
Photos. And there are ways of finding them. That's all I'm going to say without spoiling anything. But you're not led down this road at all to find them. There's a hint in one of your pause menu options, which again you'll find when the time comes. But it rewards you for unlocking everything that you can unlock. On your pause screen. Yeah, that's. I think you want to finish those challenges. That's all I'm saying. Or get enough points from those challenges that you don't need to finish them all.
Yes,
that's your key.
That's all right. I'm quite good at the stealth ones and the combat ones. I'm awful at the drone ones. So
I don't think I didn't get 3 stars on any of the drone ones. Bombs, I got a few. Stealth and combat, I got 3 stars on all of those. Oh, Web Blossom for the combat ones again. That's how you get your 3 stars.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. And it's good to know that you're still kind of enraptured by it. You're still playing it even after those points as well. So it's one of those games that we as people who talk about games on a weekly basis, I find myself now tending to rattle through games pretty swiftly. Don't always try and finish as much as I can, but don't always finish everything, and you kind of move on to the next week in a new game to kind of talk about it. This almost feels like a bit more of when I was like a kid, and you buy one game and that's the game you've got for like 3 months until your birthday or Christmas or something like that. That there's so much to do in this, and it's going to keep you coming back to it, that you don't need anything else necessarily.
No, I think that's pretty much the key. This game, you can make as much or as little of it as you like. It rewards you for exploring it. It rewards you for doing things over and above the main story.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't need to do it. If you find a playstyle that works for you, you can mainline it all the way through. Job done.
Yeah.
And it's a decent end game. It may feel a bit flat, I suppose, but for fans of Spider-Man, it's right. I think that's the key thing for it. It's a right fit. It's a fitting end.
Nice.
And
Well, it's definitely one of those. It's definitely one of those games that I'm like itching to play as well. That I'll kind of be sat here doing a load of work, go in, sort the little one out, have dinner, put her to bed, and I'm like, so can I jump on the PlayStation now? And my partner was saying, I thought we could watch this, or like the new series of Iron Fist just dropped or something. And I'm like, none of these things are as good as Spider-Man, though.
Do you know what? The first few episodes of Iron Fist are pretty decent as well, but that has been my post Spider-Man refresher. Nice. Now, I watched a few of those, but it's easy though as well. You can jump on and you can do one side quest, or you can do one little fetch quest, and that's it. It's a 5-minute palate wetter, just to give you enough of a fix before you get dragged off to do your things, household stuff. I've really enjoyed it, and I think I particularly like the way there's a way that they ended it, which it'll make you laugh when you realise exactly what they've done, and it's right at the very end. The after you've finished the story, something happens, and it's Marvel. It's very Marvel the way they've done it. It's good.
Nice.
It's perfectly set up for a sequel.
Yeah, you've got to imagine that this is now going to be, if not one more game, that they're going to kind of try and get a few out of this now. Whether they drop on, next generation consoles, and it's maybe one game at the early part of the next generation and late part of the third game at the late part of the generation or something like that. That's fine. Like, take your time. You might find that if it isn't a next gen sort of thing, that actually they could bang another one out in a couple of years. They've kind of got the system there, they've got the infrastructure there. Obviously there's a lot to kind of build on and work with, more story to kind of get into and stuff, but we might see quite a quick turnaround on something like this. I can't imagine. I think there's 3 parts or 3 different releases for the DLC. So if one's September, you've got to be thinking maybe it's October and November. So kind of Spider-Man as a package, or this Spider-Man as a package, is going to be kind of rounded up and finished by the end of the year. Obviously there's only a smaller team, I would imagine, working on the DLC packs. So whether that team is shifting straight into another Spider-Man game, or they're going off to do something else, make Sunset Overdrive 2 or another Ratchet & Clank game, whatever they're looking to do next, you've got to think that it's kind of on the drawing board, perhaps.
Oh, absolutely. If they've not already started working on the sequel, it's not far away at all. I was reading some news earlier on about how they're open to a Sunset Overdrive 2. But I think very, very much that, I mean, just by saying they're open to it says that they're not doing it. And if Sony are going to keep throwing money at them, then if they're going to keep throwing money, they're going to keep making Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine it's quite fun to make as well. It's obviously a job, it's work, but you can feel the love that's gone into the game. It is a love letter to all of the Spider-Man comics. There's a bit from everything, even 2099. It's made with care, and I think you can feel that.
Yeah, very much. Things like the little touches, like collecting the backpacks, and each of the backpacks having a little item in. Because this story set something like 7 or 8 years after Peter has become Spider-Man. So there's a lot of history there for him and the villains and everything. So it's cool to have those little moments and those pickups where he'll give you a little quip or say something about an encounter that he'd previously had, which ties into a comic storyline or something like that. A well-known sort of encounter that he's had. So I think like stuff like that is really good. I know Ted Price. Some of the stuff I've read that he's kind of commented on, they weren't kind of, or he at least suggested that they make their own IPs. They don't really take on anything else. And when they were first approached for it, he wasn't that sure about it, but went back to the studio to ask everyone, and they were really up for it. And he said they had the pick of kind of Marvel properties, and Spider-Man very quickly came up and rose to the top. So as you say, you can feel the love in it, and obviously enough people behind this game wanted to make this game as well. It's not just kind of like, oh, we're going to be doing this now, or we've used this system before, let's put it in a game that does this. It is, we want to make Spider-Man, we want to make a Spider-Man game, let's get fully into this and get fully behind it. So have you got any final thoughts on Spider-Man, Alex, before we jump into our next section?
I think beyond the gameplay, beyond the story, beyond Spider-Man even, it's important to recognise how much the city works as well. The island itself is a tiny part of New York City.
Yeah.
But what they've managed to do there is they've created so many distinct sections. The traffic changes, the people change, the comments you get from people change. The feeling of each neighborhood is completely different. I think that's something to be valued. Particularly, you watch the Netflix Marvel shows, a lot of us do, and each area has its own different feeling. But the one thing which a lot of people won't notice, and I only spotted it on Reddit a couple of days ago, is something that's down in the financial district. And it's, again, a love letter to New York as well. Spider-Man's crawling up a building, and it's a glass-fronted building. He's crawling up, and you can see the reflection of these two huge towers behind him.
Oh, really?
You turn around, there's no towers there.
Yeah.
And it's just a tiny, tiny thing, which nobody would have batted an eyelid if they hadn't put it in. It's nothing, but it's a respect for the properties. Respect for New York is important to the Marvel universe. It always has been. And that respect for New York and the respect for the character that Marvel have spent years and years creating, it really shows through. And they've done a cracking job.
Nice. Good. I have to go and find that building now.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't mind swinging around the city just aimlessly looking for it.
It's easy. You pick up some benchmarks for that anyway. It's fine.
Yeah, nice. So, talking about drawing boards, talking about Marvel as a whole, other properties we're going to talk about now. Maybe some of our picks for other kind of superhero games that we want to see. Superhero games have always been very hit and miss.
Yeah.
I don't really have one in my head which has maybe been as good as this Spider-Man is. Maybe Spider-Man 2, something like that. There were some good sort of side-scrolling superhero games. One of the X-Men games, which has gone from the name of it's gone from my mind. But we've had some good games. We've had some absolutely diabolical games. So, Alex, come to you first. If you could have any superhero in a game, who would it be? Any superhero in a game?
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
It is. It's very difficult.
It's so difficult. They've tried... I was thinking about this, and you can't do teams. Teams don't work in games. Because unless you do it like the Lego games do, where you can switch between characters.
Yeah.
And even then, it's going to feel a bit twee. And you can't really have... It won't feel right if it's like that. You won't get what you're going for. I was thinking Justice League, and Justice League's not going to work. For a start off, two of the Justice League are ridiculously overpowered. And why would you play with any character other than Superman? In all reality, why would you do it?
Yeah.
Batman's been done through Arkham, which is exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a great job with Batman. But if you team him up with Superman, who are you going to choose?
Yeah.
There's no question. If you're fighting against a DC baddie, you're going to be fighting as Superman. So I went back to Marvel and I thought about that, and they've got a much wider range They range from the likes of Hulk at one side, which would be so much fun. You bring me Hulk DLC for Crackdown, and then we're having a conversation. But the thing I think about this game is that it's close to real life. It's real criminals. They might well be a bit enhanced, but they're real. So it comes down to street level. And my gut feeling is Daredevil.
Yeah.
So it's New York again, but you give me a 2.5D sort of Daredevil game. Maybe, do you know what? You could probably do it in 3D. You give it to the Hitman team to create. So it's a puzzle solver. You've got certain tasks to complete. You choose the way you want to solve them, whether you're Matt, whether you're Daredevil, and you add in the mobile game Dark Echo mechanics to it. So you can't see a thing. And the way you face, you're picking up certain structures, you're picking up people. And I think that's your game there. That, to me, I mean, it's nigh on impossible to create. it's ridiculous, but that sort of game for me would really do it. So then I took that thought and I thought, right, so it's impossible to create. What would be better? Give me Hawkeye, give me Chicago, and give me a living, breathing world where you get a challenge and you're told, I need this done by the end of the day, and you get it done by the end of the day, or you don't, and if you don't, you get called up on it. You've got two Hawkeyes you can play with. You could set up the detective agency or the PI agency that's set up on the other coast in Los Angeles, maybe, and it takes the Red Dead sort of mechanics that are coming with Red Dead 2, whereby you have to do what you want to do in the right timescale. Otherwise, people will get bored. They'll move on.
Yeah.
Same time, you could take it back to New York. You could give it to Iron Fist, put him in Chinatown again, and that gang, those gangs are going to keep on fighting, whether you're involved or not. And the whole landscape of the area is going to change as you go through, based on your actions or your inaction. That's what I want to see, something real, something close to people.
Nice. It's a good choice. I think setting it in a different city to New York is a good choice. I was thinking sort of around the kind of like that street level thing as well, whether you have, like a Defenders game, or at least the kind of, the Defenders that we kind of get through Netflix at the moment. And it doesn't have to be necessarily like the Lego game. Maybe you have like a little chapter in each. So you do something as Jessica Jones, you do something as Matt, something as Iron Fist, something as Luke Cage, and everything kind of culminates in a story, and it's kind of told that way. But to kind of then take New York, we've got that kind of that scale of New York through Spider-Man. Obviously, that it's not one-to-one scale; it's massively scaled down for actual kind of square mileage and stuff like that. So you could make it a little bit, focusing on one of the areas, whether it was Chinatown or somewhere, and kind of try and make it maybe more one-to-one scale. So you've still got like streets and streets and streets and ports and harbours and loads of a big area to kind of to play with. But going to another city, kind of, it does make sense to kind of still have it on maybe the scale that Spider-Man is on. And like you were saying, maybe with like a Daredevil game, if you did it in a slightly different perspective, you wouldn't need to have it at the same scale, I suppose, that we've kind of had this open world Spider-Man game. But I think we're at that point now that we're getting stuff like, because my mind instantly went to like Guardians of the Galaxy for this. We've had that Telltale Guardians of the Galaxy game. I played the first episode, didn't really connect with me, so didn't take it any further. But as you were saying about things like Justice League, how do you do that like switching mechanic? How do you not make one character feel underpowered over another? With the Guardians of the Galaxy game, you just barrel through everyone as Drax, or just kind of shoot everyone as Rocket. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is maybe a little bit more balanced than like Justice League would be. And they could each have their own traits and, better abilities than the others to be able to kind of take through. But it's a difficult one. And I instantly thought, well, if we're going to do this, I'm going to have someone that's maybe a little bit overpowered. You could just go straight to like Thor. And you could almost start to have a bit of a merge between maybe like Spider-Man now and God of War that we've just had. You know, I think maybe a Thor game would be quite similar to the God of War game we just had, maybe with a little bit more fluid movement. You know, the way he can just like swing with the hammer or the axe or whichever period you'll set it in, you know, and fly through enemies rather than it constantly being like a brawl of just like bashing people with your hammer. It could almost be a little bit more like something like the Force Unleashed, where you've got those like lightning powers as well as this like weapon melee kind of combat, something around that kind of idea. And then I started to kind of like think, well, you know, is it set in Asgard? I don't really like that idea. Could we set it in just one of the cities on Earth? That's fine, but you know, we've got Spider-Man, we've got other heroes which are like Earth-based. They don't really go anywhere else to get that kind of experience. So why not have a space hopping Thor bowling around? You know, whether it's tied into the films or not, that kind of doesn't matter. But you can set up any story you want. So whether you get Thor pootling around in a little pod with Rocket as the captain, kind of just going around different places in space, doing some cool shit.
Yeah.
You know, you can have a big scale kind of battler kind of game, I suppose, where you feel just super powerful until you come up against giants or something like this. You know, Thor's a difficult one to kind of pull away from what we've just had from God of War with the different realms and stuff and doing that. So I think for something for another superhero game, I want something that's like super far removed from maybe what we've had. I know I mentioned to you about like which developer would you pick for, you know, for the game and stuff, and you mentioned like IO from Hitman. For Thor, for this kind of scale of game, I really don't know. I've struggled with picking someone. I think maybe, and it's not just because they did the Batman games, someone like Rocksteady could kind of take that next level of what they've done, open up the world a little bit more, or allow multiple kind of areas to be able to kind of ping between, and add some kind of different mechanic when you're traveling between them or something like this. You know, it kind of just takes that maybe that next step up from what we've had previous from someone like that. And they're kind of reported that they're working on a superhero game, aren't they? And no one.
I think
really
everyone's rumoured. Everyone's rumoured at the moment to be working on something. I was thinking about Square Enix as well. For a living breathing world, Square Enix could do it, and seeing as they're supposedly working on the Avengers game with them, which I am concerned about. An Avengers game to me doesn't seem like a good idea. Just because of the same problem with the Justice League. It's just a little bit too much to deal with, and realistically all it's going to be is fight a bunch of peons with super OP capabilities and then come up against a boss and just hit square at the right time. And that to me doesn't feel right. I'm concerned about the game. I love Square Enix. I think they can do amazing things. Tomb Raider is testament to that. So I'm going in with an open mind to whatever they have to show us, but I am slightly concerned about it.
That's interesting. Maybe, you know, if Square, I don't know what kind of what rights they've got in terms of like the Marvel properties, whether with it being an Avengers game, whether it's tied into the film franchise or what they're doing. Really, games and the Marvel Cinematic Universe have never really kind of tied up until we've had a few like there was a couple of Spider-Man games on PS3 which were like movie games, weren't there?
Yeah.
But with kind of like Marvel as a whole, it's never really tied together. I think, talking of Tomb Raider, and knowing that Square Enix can do really super, or Crystal Dynamics can do super storytelling from like a female perspective, I kind of my mind went from a Thor game bashing around the universe to maybe a Captain Marvel game bashing around the universe, because she is super OP, isn't she?
She
according
definitely
to
is.
everybody. And it's one of those that, where is the ceiling? Like, if you get that game and you just destroy everyone, you bash through it, obviously there's going to be some kind of conflict or some element of being like depowered or coming up against people who are, you know, hard. They've got to make a game difficult to be able to get through, sort of. But it's kind of like one of those, where do you go from there type things, you know?
Yeah. I think Crystal could probably do a decent Black Widow game. Seeing as it appears that we're never going to see that film, give us the Natasha origin story. Show us the beginnings of Black Widow, and they could absolutely smash that out of the park.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically a reskinned Tomb Raider, but it'd be exceptional. Going back to what you said about the Defenders, the other option is to take the same style as A Way Out and have 2-player split screen, both working on the same story.
Yeah.
That, I think, I mean, that would be fascinating to deal with. I don't think it could be constructed on the scale that it needs to be constructed on. Not without a long time, given that A Way Out was quite a short lead time from announcement to release.
Yeah, it's only a couple of years, maybe.
Yeah, and it was very early days when it was first shown. But I think the scaling would obviously have to be worked on there. But that would be a fascinating way to work a street level team sort of thing. You got one person doing the investigation and one person doing the distraction, something like that. That'd work quite well. Yeah,
definitely. I think that would be interesting, especially with those, you know, with the current Netflix Defenders. Yes, they're obviously powerful. They're not quite the level, I suppose, of you know, the Avengers as such. At least that's how they're kind of portrayed. So yeah, you could very easily kind of do that as they're kind of like skulking around New York trying to stop people and things, and having the idea of sort of maybe do you do it as a whole story? So, you know, say you and I were playing, I picked Jessica Jones, you picked Luke Cage. Do we play through the story as those two characters, and then if we wanted to play someone else, you have to start again? Or is it kind of more like chapter based, and each of us could pick different characters?
It would be chapter based, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think you choose the right person for the task. You're going into a big old building with lots of corridors. You're taking Luke Cage and Daredevil, surely, because corridors. You're taking a bit of. You need to do some investigation. You're taking Jessica because one of her powers will be linked to her perception capabilities, and that sort of thing works. I'd struggle to see a reason to take Iron Fist over Luke Cage.
Just for pretty much.
I'd struggle to see any reason to take it. If you've got a choice between those two, you're going to struggle. I mean, if you've seen Luke, the most recent season of Luke Cage, maybe the flow reason, I don't know.
Yeah.
Some sort of nonsense, or if you just need to spend some money, maybe you'd take Danny Rand. But I think with a bit of work, that sort of thing would work really well. They'd be able to do something quite interesting, quite special as well for the franchise.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
Yeah, completely. I think it's kind of, I mean, it opens us up, doesn't it, to thinking maybe we don't quite, maybe we don't need a AAA kind of experience either. You can have something that's a little bit smaller on budget. Maybe even you have something, you know, I know they're making Streets of Rage 4 now, but maybe even have like a Defenders side-scrolling beat-em-up. Where you can pick your characters and jump in and out, and it's a bit like couch co-op-y, and there can be 2 of you or even 4 of you. You know, go like something like Mother Russia Bleeds, and you can have 4 of you on screen, all playing one of the characters, just battering people, and then have one of the have a boss come through at the end or something like that. You know, maybe like a slightly smaller experience than we've had with Spider-Man, or that kind of we're suggesting perhaps with, you know, some of the bigger games. Maybe.
I think that'd be a good game. There is no world where Marvel would let them do that.
No.
It would never happen. AAA or bust. That's it. Marvel, they afford their properties the respect that they believe they deserve, whether anybody else does or not.
Yeah.
They may not appear on the big screen, but they've got front and center at Netflix, and that's the way it's got to be. They wouldn't go for any AA nonsense for that at all.
That's fair. It kind of just makes me feel now that I want some kind of side-scrolling Ninja Turtles beat 'em up instead.
That's what I'm feeling as well. Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's take the Turtles in that direction instead.
Yeah, easy. We'll have a word.
Have you got any final thoughts on, you know, anything that we've discussed, or any other suggestions to put out there?
My suggestion: you should go and play some more Spider-Man right now.
Ooh.
I'll wait.
All right, I'll go. See ya. I've got some emails to do, I think.
Ah,
I'm not sure.
details.
But it's one of those, again, it's one of those days where like, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. Oh, it's bedtime, hooray.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't be dealing with that nonsense. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Right, so that's us for this week then. Alex, if people would like to talk to you about Spider-Man or anything else, how do they do so?
They can find me on Twitter at TellyAlex, on Xbox Live at TellyAlex, PlayStation, I think it's at AEWeight17. Bring me my name changes. And it's SW blah 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 on the Switch if anyone wants to talk to me at all. You can find me on OutOfLives. I'm working on some book reviews at the moment, audio book reviews. I am working on those Minecraft novels which were released. They're taking some time to temper my words somewhat. That's all I can say. But you can find some of my oldest OutOfLives as well. And you, Ben?
Nice. I'm at Nova_47 on Twitter, on PSN, on Steam, anywhere else you want to try and get me. We as a whole are Out of Lives Pod over on Twitter. Come and chat with us. Send us ridiculous memes before you can't send them anymore. You also go to the Facebook page, Out of Lives, where everything that goes up on outoflives.net automatically gets posted to as well, and a quick link goes up on Facebook. So go and join our Facebook page, or like our Facebook page, whatever you do on those kind of Facebook pages. You'll also see a couple of videos that I've started putting up. My last one was on my thoughts about who I cast in The Witcher, in the Netflix show that was coming up before the furore around it kind of
Has there been a furore around to The Witcher casting? Oh, not heard anything.
It was just, like I posted like the day before. It's like, oh, brilliant.
Well, that'll teach you. Now look
Exactly.
at what you've done.
I just have to sit at my desk and just work and never make anything again. No more content for anyone. But yes, once you've joined the Facebook page, also go to outoflives.net. We've got loads of other podcasts. We've got loads of articles. We occasionally have game reviews. Different things going up for your enjoyment all around the entertainment world. Alex's audio book reviews, which is something new for the site, will be going up. I imagine currently what you've got written down is probably longer than the book.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that is a big problem at the moment. It's longer than the book, and it's still only bullet points.
Super expanded.
Lots and lots of ranting.
Nice. Well, we'll look forward to that then.
Yeah.
So for this week, we've been Out of Lives. Bye.
Bye.